You see, in the heart of a small African village, there was a girl named Adunbi. But people didn't call her by her name. No. They called her the Cursed One. Why? Because Adunbi never let anyone touch her hair. Not her mother, not her father, not even the village women who braided every girl's hair. Every morning, Adunbi would wake up before sunrise, run to the river alone, and carefully twist her hair into thick, long braids. Alone. Always alone, people whispered. They said her hair was cursed. They said if anyone touched it, they would disappear. Some even said there were spirits living inside it, but nobody knew the truth. Until that one fateful day. It was the day of the great festival. Drums pounded. The air smelled of roasted meat and palm wine. The whole village danced. Then, suddenly, a strong wind blew. Whoosh! It was so strong that it lifted Adunbi's scarf, revealing her hair to the whole village. And then, gasps. Screams. People fell to their knees, because right there, woven into Adunbi's thick, black braids, were golden strands, not beads, not threads, but real strands of gold. Her hair was made of gold. The village chief's eyes widened. Adunbi, where did you get this? But Adunbi didn't answer. She just stood there, eyes filled with fear, clutching her hair like she was protecting a deep, dark secret. And then, from the crowd, an old woman stepped forward. Her name was Mama Alakan, the oldest woman in the village. She looked at Adunbi's hair and her face turned pale. Then she whispered something that made everyone's blood run cold. She said, "This is not just gold. This is the hair of the forgotten ones." The what? People murmured, confused, afraid. The forgotten ones? Who were they? Adunbi's lips trembled. Tears filled her eyes. Then, finally, she spoke. But what she said next shook the whole village to its core. The whole village stood frozen. The night was silent. Even the wind stopped blowing. Then, with a shaky voice, Adunbi finally spoke. "My hair is not mine alone." The chief stepped forward. "What do you mean, child?" Adunbi swallowed hard. She looked around, as if checking if something, or someone, was watching. Then she whispered, "There are voices in my hair." The crowd gasped. Some stepped back. Mama Alakan's hands trembled. "Voices?" she repeated. Adunbi nodded, tears falling. "They speak to me. They cry at night. They whisper secrets. They are trapped." The chief's face darkened. "Who are they?" Adunbi's body shook. She clutched her braids tightly, like she was afraid someone would snatch them away. Then, finally, she said it. "The forgotten ones." A deep silence fell over the village. Then Mama Alakan suddenly collapsed. People screamed. Women rushed to her, fanning her face. The chief bent down. "Mama, are you all right?" But the old woman's eyes were distant, like she was somewhere else. Then, with a voice not her own, she spoke. "They have returned." People froze. Mama Alakan's hands shook as she pointed at Adunbi's hair. "That hair carries a curse older than this village." The chief's face grew pale. "Mama, what do you mean?" Tears rolled down Mama Alakan's cheeks. "Long ago, before our fathers were born, there was a powerful kingdom. Rich, mighty, but it was built on blood. People held their breath." She continued. "They had a secret. A terrible secret. They stole the hair of sacred beings. Beings from the other world. They wove it into gold, believing it would give them eternal power." The chief's hands trembled. "But what happened to them?" Mama Alakan's lips quivered. Then, in a voice so soft, yet so terrifying, she whispered, The kingdom vanished in one night. People gasped. Some covered their mouths. Mama Alakan turned to Adunbi. Her old eyes filled with something deeper than fear. Child, your hair is the last piece of that kingdom. And the spirits want it back. The ground seemed to shake beneath them. Then, from the dark forest behind the village, a whisper came, a voice. Cold, hollow, ancient, and it said, "Give us back what is ours." The whisper hung in the air, chilling everyone to the bone. "Give us back what is ours." The villagers screamed. Some ran, some fell to their knees, others clung to each other, too scared to move. But Adunbi, she stood frozen. The voice was inside her head now. Louder. Closer. Adunbi, the chief's voice was shaking. Who are they? Adunbi's lips trembled. I don't know. But they come every night. In my dreams. In the wind. In the river. They are always watching. Mama Alakan grabbed her hands, her old fingers cold. Child, did they ever tell you what they want? Adunbi nodded slowly. Then she whispered the words that made everyone's blood run cold. They said, "If I don't return the hair, they will take my soul instead." Boom! A loud crack echoed through the sky. Lightning flashed. The earth shook. Then, the golden strands in Adunbi's hair began to glow. Brighter. Brighter. It was blinding. It burned. It felt alive. Adunbi screamed. She clutched her head, falling to her knees. The glow spread, creeping down her back, her arms, her legs. Mama Alakan gasped. "It's waking up." The chief grabbed his staff. "What do we do?" Mama Alakan's face was pale. "We must return it before it's too late." The villagers watched in horror as Adunbi's body began to lift off the ground. She wasn't standing. She wasn't jumping. She was floating. Then, from the dark forest, they came, figures, shadows, tall with glowing white eyes, moving without sound. Hundreds of them, the spirits of the forgotten ones. They stretched their hands towards Adunbi. Then, in voices so ancient, so hollow, so cold, they all whispered together, "Time is up." Adunbi's eyes widened. She opened her mouth to scream, and then, Adunbi couldn't move. Her body was frozen in midair, her golden hair burning like the sun. The spirits stretched their shadowy hands toward her, their glowing white eyes filled with something dark. Something ancient. "Time is up." The voices echoed inside her skull, inside her blood, inside her soul. The villagers screamed. Some ran. Some fell to their knees, begging the gods for mercy. But Mama Alakan, she did not run. She gritted her teeth, stepped forward, and slammed her staff into the ground. Boom! A wave of energy rippled through the air. The spirits staggered back, hissing. The glow in Adunbi's hair flickered, just for a second. Mama Alakan pointed a trembling finger at the spirits. "You cannot take her," she shouted. "She is just a child." The spirits tilted their heads, their movements slow, unnatural. Then, all at once, they spoke. "She carries what is ours. She must return it. Or she must come with us." Mama Alakan's breath hitched. There must be another way." The spirits were silent. Then one of them, taller than the rest, stepped forward. Its voice was like 1,000 whispers mixed together. "The kingdom stole from us. They paid the price. Now she must pay hers." Mama Alakan clenched her fists. "She is not part of that kingdom. She was just born with it." The spirits stared at Adunbi. Her golden hair swayed in the wind, glowing softly. Then, the tallest spirit whispered, Then she must choose. The villagers stiffened. The chief stepped forward. Choose? Choose what? The spirit's white eyes glowed. Give up the hair. And lose all memory of who she is. Or keep it. And be ours forever. The villagers gasped. Adunbi's eyes filled with tears. Lose all her memories? Forget her mother? Forget her home? Or be taken by the spirits forever? She turned to Mama Alakan, her voice breaking. Mama, what do I do? The old woman looked away, because the truth was, there was no right choice, and then Adunbi opened her mouth and made her decision. But what she said next shook the entire village. The whole village held its breath. The wind stopped. The trees stood still. Even the spirits waited. Then, with trembling lips, Adunbi spoke. I choose. She swallowed hard, tears rolling down her cheeks. Then she whispered, I choose to keep my hair. The villagers gasped. The chief stumbled back. Mama Alakan's eyes widened in pure horror. Adunbi and oh! She cried. But it was too late. The spirits moved. Faster than the wind, faster than the eye could see. Whoosh! They wrapped around Adunbi like a dark mist, circling her, whispering in voices colder than death. Her body lifted higher. The golden strands in her hair burned like fire. She clenched her fists, her teeth grinding in pain. I won't let you take me, she screamed. But the spirits laughed. Foolish child, they whispered. You think you had a choice? Adunbi's heart stopped. She looked down and saw her feet fading, disappearing, turning into dust. She screamed. The villagers cried out. Mama Alakan slammed her staff into the ground. No! You cannot take her! But the spirits only laughed again. She belongs to us now. Adunbi struggled, fought, kicked, but the more she moved, the more of her body vanished. Her legs, her arms, her chest, until only her face remained. Her mother collapsed, wailing. My child! My baby! Mama Alakan dropped to her knees. Helpless. Adunbi's eyes filled with tears. She looked at her village one last time, then she whispered, Forgive me. And then, whoosh, she was gone, vanished, like she was never there. Her golden hair fell to the ground, lifeless. The spirits turned, disappearing into the shadows. The village stood in silence. The chief trembled. She's really gone. Mama Alakan picked up the golden strands, her hands shaking. She closed her eyes, whispering, This is not the end. And deep in the forest, somewhere beyond the human world, Adunbi opened her eyes. But she was no longer in her village. No, she was somewhere else, somewhere dark, somewhere she could never escape. And then, she heard a whisper, cold, ancient, right next to her ear. Welcome home. Darkness. That was the first thing Adunbi saw when she opened her eyes. Endless darkness. No sky. No ground. No walls. Just nothing. Her heart pounded. Her breath came in quick, sharp gasps. Where was she? Then she heard it, a whisper, cold, slow, right next to her ear. Welcome home. She spun around. But there was nothing there. Then, whoosh, something moved in the shadows. She turned again. Nothing. Her fingers trembled as she touched her head. Her hair. It was still there. But it no longer glowed. Instead, it felt heavy, like it was filled with something she couldn't see. Then, a light flickered in the distance. Dim, weak. Adunbi took a step forward. Then another. Then another. Her feet didn't touch the ground. There was no ground. But somehow, she was moving. The light grew closer. brighter. Then, as she reached out to touch it, a hand grabbed her wrist. She screamed. A face emerged from the shadows. A girl. No, a woman. Her skin was dark, but her eyes were golden. Just like Adunbi's hair. Her voice was soft but urgent. You don't belong here. Adunbi's breath hitched. Who are you? The woman's grip tightened. No time. They're coming. Adunbi's eyes widened. Who's coming? Then she heard it. A low rumbling, growing louder. Then, 1,000 eyes opened in the darkness. White. Glowing. Watching. Waiting. The woman pulled Adunbi closer, whispering fast. Too fast. Listen to me. There is only one way out. Adunbi's chest rose and fell wildly. Tell me. Please. The woman leaned in, her golden eyes burning. Then she whispered, You must find the first weaver. Adunbi's blood turned to ice. The first weaver? The woman nodded. She is the only one who can undo what was done. The whispering in the darkness grew louder. The glowing eyes moved closer. The woman let go of Adunbi's wrist. Run! And then the shadows swallowed her whole. Adunbi turned to run, but it was too late. The eyes had already found her. And then everything went black. Silence. Then a voice. Soft. Ancient. Calling her name. Adunbi. Her eyes fluttered open. She wasn't in the darkness anymore. She was floating. A vast golden river flowed beneath her, stretching endlessly into the horizon. The air smelled like something she had never known, ancient and powerful. She looked down. Her hair was glowing again. Then, footsteps. She turned, and saw her. An old woman stood before her, wrapped in layers of woven cloth. Her hair was silver, thick, and stretched to the sky like tree branches. Her eyes. They swirled with golden threads. Adunbi's breath hitched. The first weaver. The woman studied her. Then, in a voice that felt like the wind itself, she said, You should not be here. Adunbi swallowed hard. Please. I was told you could help me. The first weaver sighed, shaking her head. Child. Your hair carries something lost long ago. A power that should have never been stolen. Adunbi's hands clutched her hair. I don't want it. Please. Take it away. The first weaver's eyes darkened. You do not understand. If I take it, you will cease to exist. Adunbi's heart stopped. What? She whispered. The first weaver stepped closer. This hair is not just yours. It holds the memory of the spirits, the stolen power of a forgotten kingdom. If I unravel it, so will you. Tears filled Adunbi's eyes. So I have no choice? The first weaver hesitated. Then, for the first time, her face softened. There is one way. Adunbi's chest rose and fell. Tell me. You must weave the story back. Adunbi frowned. What does that mean? The first weaver's voice was soft but firm. You must return to your world. And tell the story. Let the world remember what was forgotten. Only then will the spirits be at peace. Adunbi blinked. That's it. Just tell the story? The first weaver smiled sadly. Stories are more powerful than you know. Then she lifted her hand, and snap, the golden threads wrapped around Adunbi. The world shattered. Whoosh, she fell. Down, down, until she woke up. Gasp, she sat up, panting. She was back, the village, the trees, the people. Her mother screamed and ran to her, grabbing her in a tight embrace. The villagers stared in shock. The chief whispered, She came back. Mama Alakan's eyes filled with tears. Adunbi. What happened? Adunbi touched her hair. It was still golden, but now she knew what she had to do. She took a deep breath, looked at her people, and said, "Gather around. I have a story to tell."